So anyway, she starts saying to me, "Oh, you got to fill them out." And I said, "Well, why?" "Oh, because that's the law." And I said, "Well, what law?" And she just said, "Oh, you've got to fill it out. You've got to fill it out." She said, "It's £1,000 fine." So she's asking me to contract. And when I refused to contract, which is exactly what it is, because she's asking me to sign a contract without the terms and conditions attached, which makes it illegal. It makes it null and void contract. And she's also telling me I've got to sign it under duress. She's threatening me to sign a contract, which also makes it null and void. These people, she just didn't know what to say. She said, "Shall I write on here you're refusing to sign?" I said, "No, I'm not refusing anything." I said, "I just don't wish to contract with you. And I'm not taking any paperwork off of you." And they looked really confused and went away. I haven't heard nothing since. I'm sure I will soon, with more threatening letters, I expect, And that's exactly what they do in council tax. They just use the Northampton bulk centre pretending to be a court, send out all these notices, and fake warrants and stuff. But people are beginning to realise, and people are beginning to, if you get bailiffs at the door, people are getting networks together, and little local groups, and they can pick the phone up and people will come and stand with you, so you don't have to bend over and take it from the bailiffs, because most of the time they haven't got real warrants. Real warrants need signing for a start, and printing off, they've been printing them off from their own computers, so they're not signed, they're not stamped by a court. You phone up your local courts, they won't know nothing about it, and then the bailiffs are on your door, illegally trying to gain entry. And just remember, folks, unless it's a criminal offence, or it's 1954 Gas Act, which is gaining entry because of a leaky gas system only, nothing else, then they've got no right of entry. If you let them in, you're screwed. And if you let them in once, you have to let them in again. They've got a right of entry second time, but you don't have to let them in first time, so just don't answer the door to them. It's a bit more difficult if you've got a vehicle, but these people are acting illegally. There's lots of instances of police turning up and assisting bailiffs, but now people are beginning to understand that when the copper walks up to you and said, "Oh, you've got to let them in, they've got a warrant," you just turn around and ask the policeman, say, "So are you acting as a peacekeeper today, officer, or are you a bailiff?" Because that makes them stop and think, because they hang on a minute, coming back to common purpose again, overstepping their authority. They're there to keep the peace. They're there, in all honesty, 9 times out of 10, to stop the bailiffs from overstepping their authority, because they will try and force their way in, and they'll try and take stuff illegally, stuff that they're not entitled to take. And there's a big long list. I mean, they're even ignoring these days the when you tell them that you've got a disabled child or somebody's ill in the property and that, they're not even giving a shit about that anymore, and that's a proper exemption under council tax rules and under the legislation that covers bailiffs, so and council tax, funnily enough. But they're just ignoring all this stuff because it's easier, and nobody's holding them to account. And when you've got a political class in Westminster, the Parliament, the Bill of Rights 1688 says that Parliament's there to represent people, and now Parliament is just there to represent themselves, to make as much bloody money out of it as they possibly can and screw everybody else, because they just see us as mindless, useless eaters. Prince Philip called it. We're all useless eaters, but we're not that useless, because we're slaves, because they're all leeches living on the back of us, the councils, parliament and all that. There's no justice, but they don't need to administer justice because we don't count in their eyes. We just don't count. As long as we're producing and not being a burden on the system, then that's fine. You know, so if you keep working, keep paying your taxes, they'll leave you alone. But as you say, hang on a minute, I don't want to pay my council tax because some of that money's going to pay for the white helmets, or murderers and Al Qaeda, and some of it's going, excuse me, to their bankster mates, and that propping up businesses that should be allowed to fold. They're not interested. They're just they'll just prosecute you. They'll take your house away. They'll do everything they possibly can to force you. People are being forcibly having key meters fitted for gas debts, which is illegal. What they do is they gain entry under the 54 Gas Act, which is only if there's a dangerous installation, and then they use the 1984 Act, I think it is, which is for financial debt. So they gain entry illegally on one warrant, and then use the other warrant to fit the key meter. Then they don't send you the key. So now you've got a meter there you can't use, so you can't, and then they won't send you the key until you've agreed a payment plan. So it's all about screwing you over. So if you think the law's there to protect you, you're wrong. You're only 3 missed payments away from having your house taken away. Now, mortgages are a whole different subject, but I'll try and go into it in a short form version here. If you don't pay your mortgage for 3 days, 3 months, what they'll do is foreclose on your property. So they'll take you to court and try and take your house away. But what they do is you've defaulted on the mortgage, so until they've got a judgment in court, they're insured. So what they do is they take they get supposedly legal possession from the court to throw you out your house. Then they claim on the insurance. So they get the house, they get the insurance, they get whatever you've been paid into your mortgage. They get all of that, rather than if they did it the legal way, all they would have ever been able to charge you for was a £400 fee for actually setting the mortgage up. But because it's fraudulent, the way it's all set up is fraudulent, they don't actually lend you any money, which is quite scary. I struggled to get my head around it, but they just type numbers onto a screen, and it's not until you pay it back that has a monetary value. Personal loans are another one. You know, if you get into trouble with your personal unsecured debts, they'll try and pressure you. What the bank's done, and they've done it to me, is they sell your debts